All right, everybody. Let's dive into something pretty big today, AI. It's
Yeah.
AI and you.
AI and you, it's everywhere you look these days.
Right, it's like exploding
It is.
out of every headline.
It really is.
But are we really understanding it?
That's the question, isn't it?
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So we're going deep with this built-in article, The Future of AI, How Artificial Intelligence Will Change the World.
Okay, sounds good.
I like how they put it, change the world. Let's get into it. Like, what is really going on?
Well, you know, it's interesting because sometimes it feels like AI just kind of came out of nowhere.
Totally.
But then you read this article and it says it's been in the works for like decades.
Really?
Oh, yeah, way back to the 1950s.
Wow, the 50s. I mean, what were they even doing with AI back then? Like, was it just basic calculations and stuff?
Well, yeah, it started pretty basic. The article mentions this checker playing program. Imagine, that was considered groundbreaking back then.
I mean, I guess it's all relative, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even those early programs were laying the groundwork for what we have now. It's like, you got to start somewhere, right?
True. So when did things really start to take off?
Well, the article points to 1997 as a pivotal year. That's when Deep Blue, IBM's chess-playing computer, defeated Garry Kasparov.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't he like the world champion or something?
World champion. So this wasn't just beating some computer program. This was AI going head-to-head with a human chess master and winning. It was a major turning point.
Yeah. That must have made people really sit up and take notice. Did it change how people viewed AI?
Oh, absolutely. It showed that AI could tackle incredibly complex problems, and it really opened up the possibilities for what AI could achieve.
I remember when IBM Watson was on Jeopardy.
Yeah.
That was a big deal, right?
Oh, yeah, that was huge. 2011, Watson goes up against these Jeopardy champions and just cleans up. It was like a defining moment for AI in the public eye. Suddenly, everyone was talking about it.
Yeah, it was like AI had arrived, you know?
Exactly. And it paved the way for what we're seeing today with generative AI, stuff like GPT-4, and that's a whole different ballgame, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah. What's so different about it?
Well, this isn't just AI crunching numbers or playing games. This is AI that creates text, music, even photorealistic images, all generated by algorithms.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. And the article says over half of large companies are already using AI in some way.
Yeah, that's right. 55%. It's not just some futuristic fantasy anymore. It's already happening.
So where are we seeing it pop up? Like, what are some concrete examples of how AI is being used in business today?
Oh, I mean, all over the place. Customer service, for one. A lot of companies are using AI-powered chatbots to handle those initial customer interactions.
Yeah, those things are getting pretty sophisticated. Sometimes I can't even tell if I'm talking to a real person or a bot anymore.
Right. But it's not just about replacing human interaction. It's about making things more efficient. Think about data analysis, too. Companies are drowning in data these days.
Data everywhere, right?
Exactly. And AI is really good at sifting through all that data and identifying trends, patterns, insights that would take humans forever to uncover.
Yeah.
It's like having a super-powered research assistant.
Okay, so AI is helping businesses work smarter, not harder. But what does that mean for the people who actually do those jobs? I mean, that's got to be a concern, right?
Absolutely. And the article doesn't shy away from that at all. It talks about how some jobs will inevitably be displaced as AI takes over tasks that used to be done by humans.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it happen before with other technologies. Like, how many secretaries do you see these days?
Right. That's a perfect example. Technology changes things. And sometimes that means certain jobs become obsolete.
But the article also talks about AI creating new opportunities, right?
Oh, definitely. Think about it. Someone has to design, program, and manage all these AI systems. That's where those new job opportunities come in. Machine learning specialists, data scientists. These are roles that didn't even exist a few decades ago.
So it's not necessarily about robots taking our jobs. It's about adapting to these new roles that AI is creating.
Exactly. And the article suggests that AI is more likely to augment our jobs, not replace us entirely. It's about working alongside these technologies, using them as tools to enhance our own capabilities.
Okay, that's a bit less scary.
Yeah, it's about finding that balance,
Yeah.
learning how to leverage these technologies to our advantage.
But this isn't just a tech industry thing, is it? It feels like AI is impacting, well, pretty much everything these days.
It really is, and the article makes that very clear. Healthcare, manufacturing, finance, education, you name it, AI is making its mark.
Okay, so how about we get specific? Hit me with some examples of how AI is changing the game in different industries.
We'll take healthcare, for example. The article highlights how AI is now being used to detect certain cancers earlier and more accurately than human doctors ever could.
Wow, that's amazing. Earlier detection means better chances of successful treatment, right?
Exactly. And it doesn't stop there. We're talking personalized medicine, where treatments are tailored to your specific genetic makeup thanks to AI algorithms.
Wow, that sounds like something straight out of Star Trek.
I know, right? But it's becoming a reality. And then there's manufacturing, where robots are now working alongside humans on assembly lines, making production more efficient and safer.
That's got to be a relief for those working in potentially dangerous environments.
Exactly. And then there's finance. AI algorithms are being used to analyze market trends and make investment decisions with lightning fast speed and precision.
So AI is like a financial whiz kid.
Pretty much. And we can't forget about education. Imagine personalized learning experiences tailored to each student's individual strengths and weaknesses.
So instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, AI can help create custom-tailored educational plans.
Exactly. It's about providing the right support and challenges at the right time, all thanks to AI. Pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah, it really is amazing to think about all the possibilities.
Yeah.
But with all this talk about the positive, surely there must be some downsides to AI as well. I mean, every coin has two sides, right?
You're absolutely right. And that's something this article doesn't shy away from. In fact, it dives headfirst into some of the ethical concerns and potential risks associated with AI, and it gets pretty deep, let me tell you.
Ooh, this is where things get interesting. All right, so let's flip that coin over and see what's on the other side. What are some of the potential downsides of AI? Give me the lowdown.
All right, well, we've got to address the elephant in the room, or maybe I should say the algorithm in the room. Because when we're talking about AI, we're talking about powerful tools.
And powerful tools can be misused.
Exactly. And that's a major concern.
So, like, what kind of misuse are we talking about here? Give me some concrete examples.
Well, one that immediately comes to mind is the whole issue of deep fakes. Have you heard about those?
Deepfakes, yeah, vaguely.
Yeah.
Isn't that where they make those videos of people saying things they never actually said?
Exactly. And it's getting more and more realistic to the point where it's becoming incredibly difficult to distinguish the real from the fake. Imagine the implications for things like political campaigns or even just personal reputations. It's a breeding ground for misinformation and manipulation.
Okay, yeah, that's scary. So how do we even combat that? If we
Yeah.
can't believe what we see and hear anymore, it's like, where does that leave us?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's going to take a multi-pronged approach, that's for sure. We need better technology to detect deepfakes, but we also need to be more critical of the information we consume online. Don't believe everything you see.
Easier said than done sometimes.
Tell me about it. But it's a conversation we need to be having. We need to be aware of the potential for misuse and take steps to protect ourselves.
So deepfakes, that's definitely one big concern. What else is out there?
Well, another major concern that the article delves into is the issue of data privacy. I mean, let's face it, in this day and age, our lives are practically lived online. Every click, every search, every purchase, it's all being tracked and collected. And that data is incredibly valuable, especially to AI developers. They need massive amounts of data to train these algorithms.
So are you saying that all this data we're generating, it's like fuel for AI?
Exactly. And the more data they have, the more powerful these algorithms become. But here's the thing. Is all that data being collected ethically? Are we even aware of how our data is being used?
I know I just blindly click accept on those cookie notices all the time. Who actually reads those things?
Right. And that's the problem. Most of us have no idea what we're agreeing to, and that's where things get a little shady.
So what can we do about it? Is there any way to protect our data in this day and age?
Well, awareness is the first step. We need to start paying attention to those privacy policies, understanding what we're giving up, and then we need to demand better from the companies that are collecting our data. We need to push for stricter regulations, for more transparency.
Okay, so data privacy, that's another big one. What else does the article highlight in terms of potential downsides?
Well, there's the whole question of bias in AI. Because these algorithms are trained on data, if that data is biased, then the AI itself can perpetuate and even amplify those biases.
That makes sense. Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Exactly. So if an AI system is trained on data that reflects existing societal biases, for example, then it might make decisions or predictions that are discriminatory. And that's a huge problem.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen examples of that happening, haven't we? Like with facial recognition technology.
Precisely. There have been several cases where facial recognition systems have been shown to be less accurate at identifying people of color. And that's a direct result of the data that was used to train those systems.
So it's like AI isn't inherently biased, but it can become biased based on the data it's fed.
Exactly. It's a reflection of ourselves, really. And that's why it's so important to address these issues of bias in the data itself. We need to ensure that these AI systems are trained on diverse and representative data sets to minimize the risk of perpetuating harmful stereotypes.
Absolutely. So we've talked about deepfakes, data privacy, and bias. What other potential downsides does the article bring up?
Well, there's the whole question of job displacement, which we touched on earlier.
Yeah, we talked about how AI can create new jobs, but it also has the potential to automate existing jobs out of existence.
Exactly. And while some people argue that new jobs will emerge to replace the ones that are lost, there's no guarantee that those new jobs will be accessible to everyone. It could exacerbate existing inequalities and lead to greater economic disparities.
That's a valid concern. So it's not just about whether AI will take our jobs, but what happens to the people whose jobs are displaced. It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Exactly. And it's something we need to be thinking about now, not down the road when it's too late.
So we need to be proactive, not reactive. What else?
Well, then there's the whole existential question of what happens when AI becomes more intelligent than humans.
Oh, you mean the singularity. Isn't that where the robots take over and enslave humanity?
Well, that's the Hollywood version anyway.
But there's a real possibility that AI could surpass human intelligence, right?
Right, and it's something that some very smart people are genuinely concerned about. Like, what happens when we're no longer the most intelligent beings on the planet?
Yeah, it's like we're playing with fire, and we're not entirely sure how to put it out if it gets out of control.
That's a good way to put it. And that's why it's so important to be having these conversations now while AI is still in its relatively early stages of development. We need to establish ethical guidelines, put safeguards in place, and approach this technology with a healthy dose of caution.
So it's not about abandoning AI altogether, but about being mindful of its potential pitfalls and proceeding with caution.
Exactly. Because AI has a potential to be an incredible force for good in the world, but it also has the potential to go very wrong if we're not careful.
I think that's a good place to pause for now. We've covered a lot of ground, from the exciting possibilities of AI to the potential risks that we need to be mindful of.
Yeah, it's a lot to process, for sure.
But it's clear that this is a conversation that's only going to become more important in the years to come.
Absolutely. AI is here to stay. The question is, how do we want to shape its future?
And that's a question for another day. But for now, I think we all need a little break to process all this information. We'll be back soon with more on AI and you. Stay tuned.
It sounds good.
Okay, so we just talked about a lot of the cool stuff that AI can do.
Right, right.
But this article we're looking at, The Future of AI, it doesn't just gloss over the tough stuff.
Definitely not. No, it doesn't.
It dives into some, well, kind of scary implications, too.
Yeah, and I think that's important, right? We can't just focus on the shiny new toys and ignore the potential downsides.
Totally. So let's get into it. What are some of the things that keep you up at night when you think about AI? What has you worried?
Well, one thing that really concerns me is the potential for AI to be used in ways that harm people, either intentionally or unintentionally.
Yeah, like, it's one thing if it's recommending the wrong song on Spotify.
Right,
But
exactly.
it's a whole other ballgame if it's making decisions that impact people's lives in a negative way.
Absolutely. And the article brings up a really chilling example. Autonomous weapon systems. We're talking about machines making life or death decisions on the battlefield without any human intervention.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, we've seen those kinds of things in movies, but that's starting to feel less like science fiction and more like a very real possibility.
Right. It's getting harder and harder to tell the difference these days.
Exactly, and I think that's part of the problem, right? Like, how do we even begin to regulate something that's evolving so rapidly, something that we don't even fully understand yet?
It's a huge challenge, no doubt. But I think that's all the more reason to be having these conversations now, before it's too late. We need to establish some ethical boundaries, some ground rules, if you will, for how AI is developed and used. We can't just let it run wild.
Okay, so autonomous weapons, that's definitely one big concern. What else is on your mind?
Well, another thing that worries me is the potential for AI to exacerbate existing inequalities in society.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, think about it. AI systems are often trained on massive data sets, right? And those data sets, they're not always neutral. They can reflect the biases that already exist in society. So if you're not careful, you can end up with AI systems that perpetuate and even amplify those biases.
Yeah, I remember reading about that facial recognition software that was really bad at identifying people with darker skin tones.
Exactly. That's a perfect example of how bias can creep into AI systems. And those systems are being used to make decisions about everything from who gets hired for a job to who gets approved for a loan to who gets flagged as a potential criminal suspect. It's scary stuff.
It really is. So how do we prevent that? I mean, how do we make sure that AI is used for good and not for, perpetuating these kinds of harmful biases?
Well, for starters, I think we need to be a lot more careful about the data that we're using to train these AI systems. We need to make sure that those data sets are diverse and representative of the real world, and we need to be constantly testing and auditing these systems to make sure that they're not discriminating against certain groups of people. Transparency is key here.
Yeah, definitely. We can't just blindly trust that these systems are going to be fair and impartial. Okay, so we've talked about autonomous weapons and bias. What else? What other potential downsides do we need to be aware of?
Well, there's the whole issue of job displacement, which we touched on earlier. And while it's true that AI has the potential to create new jobs, it's also going to automate a lot of existing jobs out of existence.
Right. It's like that whole thing about robots coming for our jobs.
Exactly. And while some people argue that those lost jobs will be replaced by new ones, there's no guarantee that those new jobs will be accessible to everyone or that they'll pay a living wage. So we could end up with a situation where AI creates a lot of wealth, but that wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few, while many others are left behind.
Right. Yeah, that's not exactly a recipe for a happy and equitable society, is it?
Definitely not. And I think that's something that we need to be really mindful of as we move forward with AI development. We need to make sure that everyone benefits from these advances, not just a select few. It's about finding a way to harness the power of AI for the greater good, while also mitigating the potential negative consequences.
So it sounds like there's a lot to consider here. It's not just about the technology itself, but also about the social, ethical, and economic implications of that technology.
Precisely. It's about taking a holistic view and recognizing that AI is not some isolated thing. It's going to impact every aspect of our lives. And we need to be prepared for that.
And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do we prepare for something that's so complex and constantly evolving?
Right.
I mean, we can talk about ethical guidelines and regulations and all that, but it feels like AI is always one step ahead.
You're not wrong. It can feel that way. And there are no easy answers here. But I do think that education and awareness are crucial. The more people understand about AI, how it works, and the potential risks and benefits, the better equipped we'll be to navigate this new landscape.
I think you're right.
And we need to start having these conversations now. While it's still relatively early days, we can't wait until it's too late.
Okay, so we've talked about some pretty heavy stuff here, but I want to end on a somewhat positive note. Is there anything about the future of AI that makes you feel optimistic?
You bet. I mean, despite all the potential downsides, I'm still incredibly excited about the future of AI. Because at the end of the day, this is a technology that has the potential to solve some of the world's most pressing problems.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Yeah.
So you're saying AI could actually make the world a better place. Give me some examples.
Well, for starters, I think AI has the potential to revolutionize healthcare. We're already seeing some really promising applications in areas like cancer detection, drug discovery, and personalized medicine. Imagine a world where diseases are diagnosed earlier and treated more effectively, where new cures are developed at a rapid pace. That's the kind of future that AI could help us create.
That's amazing. What else?
And then there's the whole issue of climate change. It's arguably the biggest challenge facing humanity today, and I believe that AI has a crucial role to play in addressing it. We can use AI to develop cleaner and more efficient energy sources, to optimize our use of existing resources, to predict and mitigate the impacts of climate change. It's not a silver bullet, but it's a powerful tool that we can use to make a real difference.
Yeah, it's like AI can help us understand and manage these complex systems that we've created, systems that have gotten so big and so interconnected that they're almost impossible for humans to grasp on their own.
Exactly. We need that AI assistance, that computational power, to help us see the bigger picture and make smarter decisions.
So it's like even though AI can be scary, it can also be incredibly hopeful. It's like it all comes down to how we choose to use it, right?
Exactly. It's a tool, just like any other tool. We can use it for good or for evil. It all depends on the choices we make.
Okay, so where do we go from here? It feels like we're at this crossroads, like this turning point in human history with AI. What's next?
You know, it really does feel that way, doesn't it? It's like this pivotal moment. And the thing about these turning points is that the path forward, it's not always clear.
Right, we don't have a crystal ball.
Exactly. But that's what makes it both exciting and a little bit daunting, right?
Totally. So Any guesses? What's your take on the future of AI? Where do you see this all going?
Well, if you ask 10 different experts, you'll probably get 10 different answers.
Probably more than 10, knowing how these things go.
Exactly. But I can tell you what I hope to see, what I think would be the most positive and beneficial path forward for AI.
All right, I'm all ears. Lay it on me. What's your optimistic vision?
Okay, so imagine a world where AI is used not to replace humans, but to augment our abilities, to help us achieve things that we never thought possible. Imagine using AI to solve some of the world's most pressing problems, like climate change, poverty, disease. Imagine a future where AI helps us to create a more just and equitable society for everyone.
Wow, that's a pretty amazing vision. But how do we get there? Because right now it feels like we're just as likely to use AI to create new problems as we are to solve old ones.
True, true. It's a double-edged sword, that's for sure. But I think the key lies in how we choose to develop and use this technology. We need to prioritize ethical considerations, transparency, and accountability every step of the way. It's not just about what AI can do, it's about what we should do with it.
So it's like we need to be really intentional about the future we're building with AI. We can't just leave it up to chance or to the whims of the market.
Exactly. We need to be proactive, not reactive. We need to be thinking about the long-term consequences of our actions, not just the short-term gains.
That makes a lot of sense. But it also feels like huge responsibility, like
Yeah.
it's not just up to the tech companies or the governments to figure this out. We all have a role to play, right?
Absolutely. This is a conversation that needs to involve everyone, not just the experts. We need to be talking about this in our schools, in our workplaces, in our homes, because at the end of the day, the future of AI is the future of humanity. It's up to all of us to decide what that future looks like.
It's funny. We started this whole deep dive talking about this built-in article, The Future of AI. And I think what's becoming clear is that the future of AI isn't some predetermined thing. It's a story that we're all writing together right now. And that's both empowering and a little bit terrifying, all at the same time.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Empowering and a little bit terrifying. That pretty much sums it up.
Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah, I think we've given our listeners a lot to chew on today, a lot to think about.
We definitely have. But more importantly, we hope we've sparked some important conversations, because this is something we all need to be talking about.
Absolutely. The future is in our hands.
Well said. And on that note, we want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI. It's been a wild ride, but we wouldn't have it any other way. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay informed.
Couldn't agree more.